Let's see here. All right, we're almost ready to go. Excellent. I think that'll work. Are we 10, 9, 8, 7, 6? We're on. We're live. No, we're not live. This is a recording. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Something weird is going on with my StreamYard. Do you see it? Like it's not. It's like things have moved. Yeah, like my astrology thing. I don't know. I guess we'll mess around with this some other time. I have a part 2 to do, and that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to go over a part 2. I just did a video on stelliums, Stellium. And so we had a chart. We looked at the example to like point out what a stellium looks like, and we read a couple of short definitions for stelliums. And then we kind of gave an overall general meaning for stelliums and how to break it down, but then how to back up and see the big picture, right? So after I ended that video, I just kept hearing there's more, there's more. And so I thought, okay, what else have I not looked at? And so I did a little bit more work. And that's what we're going to do with this video. We're going to look at another chart and we're going to kind of use it as an example to explain, to demonstrate what I'm about to read for you here. Okay. So when you have a stellium, right, a combination of planets within the same sign, there is a rule. And the rule is the first and the last planets in that combination are crucial. Crucial. So the stories and the themes, they're going to stay. The big picture is going to stay. The thing is, think of a movie or think of a book that you read. Think of that story. And the story itself has like a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? And the teaching is that just like a story, so too does the first planet in the stellium and the last planet, right? And so the teaching is that the first planet is known as the lead planet, and the last one would be, the last planet. It's not fancy. It's just the last planet. Doesn't make it any less important, though. They're both equally important. So let me read a little bit that I have here. It says that perhaps the most crucial pieces of a stellium are the first planet and the last one. The lead planet would be the one in the earliest degree of the zodiac, meaning you're looking at the sign and it's the first one that's got the lowest degree. Common sense, right? We kind of showed that on the last video. We went through the degrees and we talked about the beginning one and it was Saturn, and the last one actually was Neptune. Interesting, right? And so we're paying attention also to the last degree. But in this little paragraph I'm reading here, as an example, in a stellium with Mars at 4 degrees of Cancer, Jupiter at 8, their moon at 9, and Uranus at 10, Mars is the lead planet and Uranus is the last. So if a mixed sign stellium contains planets, this says a mixed sign stellium. Oh, this is interesting. If a mixed sign, I've just came across this piece. If a mixed sign stellium contains planets at 28 degrees in Sagittarius, 1 degree in Capricorn, and 2 degrees in Capricorn, and 5 degrees of Capricorn, the planet at 28 degrees in Sagittarius is the lead planet. That makes sense because they're all conjunct, right? They're all conjunct. And so that planet being first in line of the conjunction being at the lowest degree, even though it's at number 28, it's the sign before Capricorn, right? It's the lead planet. the last planet will be the planet at the latest degree in the stellium. So I'm glad I read this bit, because in the last video, I was explaining how a stellium is typically, because I was trying to give basic explanations, like general explanations, because I didn't want to get too deep into it, but it's almost impossible to not get too deep. It's like impossible. As much as I try to try to keep it basic, it just never gets basic. And I think that's because as humans, because our charts are us, right? We're so freaking complex. So I just don't think it's like I gotta go, like super basic to just stay away from all the depth. But anyway, I digress. So it's good to know from this little passage here that it can be multiple signs. You can have a mixed sign because they could all be crunched together. In that example, Sagittarius at 28. Let's just say they don't give signs. They just say they got a planet at 28, a Capricorn at 1, a Capricorn at 2, and 1 at 5. And then they explain that the Sagittarius at 28 is the lead planet because it's close enough to be conjunct. So it's the lead in that stellium. The lead planet is automatically the first affected by the new transits. And I talked about that in the video. So I'm going to link that video below because you really want to watch. This is a complete series. If you just watch one, you're just getting one bit and you're going to miss some of the other nuggets that are going to be important. So the lead planet is automatically the first affected by new transits that represent periods of either a challenge, a change, or even a crisis. But I will explain something that they just said here. Stelliums can be part of trines as well. Okay. It can be part of something beautiful and new and some sort of a great ease that's coming in. It goes both ways, right? Even a crisis. So it's like the first responder at the scene of an emergency. We get what a first person, right? We get it. There's like a lot of examples here. We get it. What that person does upon arriving at the scene is a huge influence on the outcome. If the first responder makes the right moves, it helps to stabilize the crisis. But if they make the wrong moves, the challenge is harder to overcome. Backgrounds of first responders may or may not suit the task, but they cope heroically until better qualified helpers arrive on the scene. Then they step back unless they're needed. The same is true of the lead planet in a stellium. Okay, so that's kind of a nice little story on that, right? So the first planet and the last planet are crucial. So let's go pull up that chart. But before I do, Taffy, of course, is at the door right now. Are we recording? Yeah, we are. I said I was. And I'm like, what's the deal here? So let me throw a chart on the screen and then I'm going to go get her. And the stellium. Right. Like who didn't find it, right? Let's do it like this. This is what I forgot to do in the last video. I can't stand when I forget. It's like the smallest move, but it's so important, right? All right, so take a look at this chart. Let's break this down a little bit without going too deep. We can obviously see here that, actually when you pull back from this person's chart, it's like, okay, this person has multiple stelliums, and they do. You're right. There are multiple stelliums in this chart. Pisces, right? The 6th and the 7th house, including their descendant, conjunctions, right? The first thing about the Pisces part, though, is it begins at 4 and it ends at 8. And it doesn't pick back up again until 19. You see that? 4, 6, 8, 22. So they don't have to, this will still be a theme because it's the theme. It's the big picture. It's the Piscean theme. This person, obviously, by transit would get a break because of the degrees. It stops at 8 or 9 degrees and it doesn't pick up again until 19. But it's still going to trigger the Piscean themes. You follow? And so, as an example, on this chart, we're going to look for the lead planet. And Vertex is the lead planet on the Pisces stellium, which means it's a person, it's an event, it's fated energy. And because it's in Pisces, these are individuals you likely have soul memory and soul history lift. Some would say a past life energy, right? These are people likely of the cloth. Okay, that's Pisces energy. People who have sacrificed before, especially this person has a moon there. So I can say this confidently. When you have a Pisces moon, it does speak about your mom, of course. But we're kind of going a little esoteric here, and we're looking a little bit deeper, and we're talking about soul's energy and the common themes. And this is a big deal, because if it's a common theme in this lifetime, it's like, hey, wait a minute. This is like a carryover, right? Yeah. So Vertex is bringing it to the forefront. This is the lead. And the end of the Piscean theme, the last one, the closer, I'll call them. I don't know what they called them. What did they call the last one? They actually didn't give it a name. Hey. Come on over here. She's not happy because I'm not giving her the full body massage. Come on over here. Come on. Here's the book. Here, get on your paper. Be a happy girl. She loves to lay on paper. There you go. Is that good? Okay, well, my elbow has to be down. Oh my God, this cat's going to make my life hard right now. All right. So Vertex in this chart is the lead, the first responder, and Estrella, that's Estrella there. Estrella is the closer. Okay. And it's about the Piscean themes. Now let's go look. Yeah, this person has a lot of stuff. They've got a Taurus stellium as well. You see that? And it includes a house cuspline again. It includes a house cuspline, just like it did on the descendant, which is relationships, marriage, and partnerships. Right there. That's a descendant, and that is that house cuspline. The descendant is the same as your 7th house cuspline. For those of you that didn't know that, there you go. And let's see where the other stelliums again. Another stellium in the sign of Cancer. And it includes a house cuspline. This person's got lots of stelliums. No wonder they asked the question. They said, can you go and do a video, or can you talk about stelliums, please? They got stelliums all around the chart. And then look at their Virgo energy. Let me move that over. Look at the Virgo energy. A stellium in Virgo. You see that? A stellium in Virgo. And includes the ascendant, the first house cuspline. The word cusp means the beginning of a house. Wow. Libra even has a frickin' stellium. Some might argue and say that's not a stellium, but it's got Venus at 9, the second house cuspline at 13, 14, and then it's got Vulcan at 22. All right, so I left the most obvious one for last, even though this person has Sagittarius. Sagittarius stellium. Yeah, wow. Sagittarius stellium. And then this person has, lots in Sag. And you could even say the Capricorn too, because the house cuspline and 2 other planets. So the only thing not in a cusp or in a stellium, I shouldn't say the only thing, but you see that you have Jupiter by itself, right? And then you see their Leo energy up there, but in their Cancer. And yeah, there's just a lot of stelliums. The cool thing about this person's chart is they're all the way around the chart. So it adds to a balance. You see like an intensification of energy here. And then opposite of it, you also have that intensification. And that is Scorpio. I saved for last because that is the focus right now, is the Scorpio energy. It is the most obvious. It's huge. It takes up 2 houses. Takes up 2 houses in this person's chart. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So, according to what we just read, the lead planet in this person's Scorpio stellium is the sun. Now she's going to meow. And that means she wants out. And I'm like, I just started, Taff. Hold on a second. Hey, you just got in here. Chill. Yeah. You're not going to have me running back and forth. I got to get this video in. So the lead planet is the sun in Scorpio, and the closer, the finisher, is Saturn. Really freaking interesting just looking at that by itself, because when you have, first of all, a 0 degree Scorpio, holy crap, it's a critical degree. This is an extremely intense individual, but it's not just them like internally, it's the way they express. So what does that mean? Well, when we express, it includes, like me. You see, I'm using my voice, I'm using my face, I'm using my hands, I am expressing, right? And you hear my voice. It's also the words that I choose in the way that I'm expressing. But expressing is even more than that. It can be very animated, but with Scorpio, it's intense. When it's in the sun, when you got the sun in Scorpio, you feel like you're the authority, like you are in charge of what's going on here. And so that can be tricky. That can be tricky because the authority figure, if we're young and we're really not the authority, because there's like my dad or my mom is the authority over me, my boss, wherever you live, like like there are lots of people just in society that would, you're driving in your car and the police pull you over, they're the authority at that moment, right? So it can be difficult. And likely this energy would challenge authority because it's in Scorpio, and Scorpio's like, you said what? Scorpio's like, did you just say what I think you said? Like Scorpio is going to be like almost looking for an opportunity to challenge authority because it's got Mars and Pluto as its ruler. And so having Mars and Pluto as its ruler, it's like you can hear something someone says and be like, those are fighting words, even though they might not be looking for a fight. But Mars is always looking for a good challenge. Mars loves that. And Pluto does too. Pluto feels like if there's ever anything that's going to occur, it should not be simple. There should be change involved on a deep level. Pluto believes that truly, right? So the way this person would express, this is the first responder. And what did we read about? That a first responder shows up in the emergency and they know that they may not know enough. So they have to know when to step back. Or as I would like to say, and I always say, we pick and choose our battles. We're like, okay, I got there. I see if there's anything I can do or help. And I can pretty much figure out right away whether I'm needed or wanted there, and immediately assess the situation and step back. Be like, okay, I'm good. I'm done. I did what I can do. And obviously, whatever I have to offer isn't being heard here. It's a possibility. But the difference is knowing when to step back, because it's the sun and it always feels like it's the authority. So we kind of got to keep our own sun in check, especially at a 0 degree, and it being the first responder of this powerful, powerful Scorpio stellium. Now let's go to the Saturn, the finisher, the closer, right? The person, it's really interesting because this Saturn is also someone who's an authority figure. Yeah, this can also be my father. This is someone who is in charge, the boss. So it's like this person in this chart, they come in like they're the boss, like they know more possibly. And what makes this so damn hard is that because they've got all this stuff in Scorpio, they likely do know more. But you have to just stay quiet. Like you don't get to express that. You have to suppress this professionally and maybe sometimes personally, especially when you're dealing with your parents or people who are elders, right? And that's where the discernment comes in. Luckily, You have Mars in Virgo that can absolutely be smart and add to the discernment. And you have Venus in Libra. This person has a balance because they have Venus and she's in Libra. And she's all about being the diplomat. She is in the first house. So this can have to do with the physical body, but it's still Venus in Libra. So she still has some of those smarts of, no one to hold them, no one to fold them, be smart, pick your battles, understand. But that Venus has got to be, yeah, she's got to be super on it because she's battling all of this. This is war energy. This is fight energy. Venus in Libra is not war, is not fight. It wants peace and harmony. It wants peace and harmony. So when this sun is like, hey, I'm right here at the beginning. I'm here to respond and to take action and to lead, literally lead the battle, lead the war, right? And it's in the second house of these are my values. Fixed energy in a fixed house. Really deeply powerful and intense stuff here. Truly. So we go to the Saturn energy. Remember, this is all about this huge stellium. But to break it down in an easy way, the first and the last planets are crucial. Because look at the numbers on these suckers. Let me go to blue real quick. The numbers on these suckers: 0, then 4, then 6, then 9. We've got Cupid, which is conjunct this person's third house cusp line, coworker energy, likely masculine because it's in Scorpio. And this can be tricky. And then Mercury, 19, 22 degrees, white moon Lilith, and then freaking Saturn at 27. Like, this is amazingly intense and powerful. And people, I'm often telling people with a lot of Leo energy, they can burn people, right? Well, it's kind of Scorpio energy. It's not about burning. It's like you can injure and wound people literally because your voice and the way you express and radiate can do damage. And so this is all like a weapon. It's all like a weapon unless you have mastered it and you have learned about each thing and you've been able to recognize at the moments and the times in your life where they were triggered by what? Well, the squares typically, right? Typically the squares. So a square to Scorpio would be Aquarius. And so this person has that in their 5th and their 6th house. They have Aquarius in their 5th and their 6th. So work can be a thing, children, fun, joy, creativity, but it's in a group because it's Aquarius. So it can be friends, older friends even, and even younger friends. There might be some issues. That Jupiter is at 7. So that exactly squares this person's South Node, right? That can be difficult. But we also have to consider the transits. That's just natally. If you look at the transits, what else squares Scorpio? Leo, right? So all that stuff in that person's Leo energy over here, their 12th house and their 11th actually. Yep. They have 8 degrees of Cancer in their 11th and the rest is Leo. And then they've got like 7 degrees of Leo in their 12th house because there's 30 degrees to a sign. And so this makes it even more complex when you've got those same energies dipping into 2 different houses because each house is a new category of your life that it opens up to. So it's open to 2 categories. So 2 categories get squared and angled up with all of this. And that can be quite tricky. So this person, yeah, that can be difficult to deal with because we're not even talking about the transiting planets up in the sky that would travel through Leo and create those squares 90 degrees away to all that Scorpio energy. And Scorpio energy, this person has this from 0 to 27 degrees. You see that? So it's like if there's only 30 degrees to Scorpio, we're basically saying that through 0 to 30, pretty much, this person has to just kind of just kind of hang on and know that there will be an end. But anytime you have anything in Aquarius and Leo, it's going to square and trigger each of these planets. First, starting with the Sun, then Pluto, then Juno, then the South Node, which is this person's superpower, and then their Cupid, and then their Mercury, and then their White Moon Lilith, and then finally their Saturn. And so what that means is, beginning with the first, how you arrived on the scene. Remember what I read in the beginning, how you arrived on the scene. The difference to a first responder when they arrive on a scene can be the difference between life and death of that person. The things they do or don't do have a big effect on the end story, on the conclusion, right? Right. So you make it through that, and you make it through the Pluto, you make it through everything, and then here we go. Now it's time for Saturn. Saturn gets aspected. And it can get aspected at the same time, possibly, by Aquarius and Leo energy, right? And so this is a hard chart. This is a complex chart. This is a person who was like, I can take this. I can do this. I know I can do this. I've got it, because this is like, holy crap, what a warrior. This was someone who chose these battles. And that's might be hard to hear, but it's just what it is. Like when we look at Saturn being the ruler, Saturn being the authority, Saturn being the boss, the rule maker. Saturn is time, possibly someone older than you. And it's, are we able to take the orders? Are we able to be held accountable and responsible? Because that's what Saturn's going to do to how we responded in the very beginning. Saturn is like, there's no shortcuts. We have to follow the rules. That's Saturn. Okay. Saturn is all about the long term. And in this sign, it's like the long term battle, right? Because it's in Scorpio. And these can be the hurts and the wounds, right? Maybe wounds of my father, wounds from my boss, wounds from somebody older than me. This is Scorpio, Saturn and Scorpio. Saturn is about time and restrictions and saying, you're not going to get elevated. I can't, there's no possible way for you to just take a shortcut, because that is Saturn. It says there are no shortcuts here. You have to go up on each rung of that ladder and climb it and go through each step. And it's duty and responsibility. So we showed up on the scene, we made it through all this stuff, and then we're handed the duties and the responsibilities, which is the reward time. So it does promise recognition and responsibilities and rewards, but it's decades. It's Saturn. It's decades. That is not to say that with this stellium, this person can't ever have rewards or recognition. They can, but just manage those expectations. Just understand the Scorpio theme. What story are we in? What book are we telling? What movie? What theater? Like, what is this all about? Understand the bigger picture, the bigger story of the Scorpio energy in general, the intense, deep emotional wounds. And many of that Scorpio stuff, it's like stuff we've carried over. And so what happens is, anytime one of our planets in Scorpio gets triggered because it's been aspected, right, by a square, even a trine or a sextile, because we can have trines that are kind of like a setup. We're like, oh yeah, everything was so easy. And then it's like, oh damn, that didn't turn out the way I thought it was going to, right? We have those. The thing is, when we get triggered, it's bringing up stuff from the past. That person or that event that triggers us, it may not really be that event you're in at the moment. It's because it's triggering. It's like you've got a scab on your arm or a bruise, or you were previously hurt and someone bumped into it. it hurts, but they weren't the one to give you that initial wound. You follow? Like, this wound that you had on your arm was from some time ago, maybe an event you were involved in even by yourself. But every time someone walks near it or bumps into it, it hurts again, right? And many times, because it's not physical and we don't see it, it's more internal and deep and psychological and emotional. It's our greatest vulnerability. It's Scorpio energy. What happens is we always have a tendency to be like, oh my God, they said this and they did that, or they didn't do that, or they didn't say this. And then it just triggers that pre-existing condition, that pre-existing emotional wound. You follow? So this chart speaks to someone who experienced a lot of that at a very young age. Because if you were to take your chronological age and look at a natal chart, let's go backwards a little bit here. Let's do this. So we're going to take the cusp line of the first house, the ascendant. Okay, that's when you're born. That's literally when you popped out of your mama. Okay, your physical body right there. And then we go to your fourth house cusp line. And this is for everybody's chart, right? Fourth house cusp line for this person's chart is here. Look how many planets are there. Look. Holy crap. This person lived before they were at the age of your fourth house cusp line. So we're talking, this is about, I want to say 7, 8, or 9 years old. Yeah. 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 I have a little chart that shows you the chronological age of you for all charts. It's the same from your ascendant to the fourth house. You're like 7, 8, 9 years old. Yeah. Almost 10 years old. It depends, because sometimes these other houses are bigger, right? This person has so many planets. It's insane how many planets there are. Now, I get it. My software shows a lot of planets. But even if we take away my software's, all the extra stuff I look at, and let's do that. Let's just take a peek, right? Let's use, I used pink all of a sudden. Okay, we're using pink. So I'm going to create my arrow to go to Mars there. All right, this person has Mars, so that's 1. Venus is 2, so that's normal, right? We'll go right to their sun, 3. Pluto, 4. Juno, 5. South Node, 6. Mercury, 7. Saturn, 8. And I didn't even include the Sagittarius energy, which is their fourth house. This is technically the fourth house cusp line right here. So there's Vesta, which we won't count, but we'll count Uranus for sure. So where was I at? 8? That's 9. That's 9. And that's not even including, I didn't include Vesta. I didn't include White Moon Lilith. I didn't include the Cupid. I didn't include Haumea. I didn't include Persephone. So there's a lot of other things I didn't include. And my point is, with all those planets there, they each represent a feeling, an emotion, an experience, a person, an event in some way. That's a whole lot of living at a young age. A whole lot of living. So for me, looking at this chart, it's like they don't have just the stellium in Scorpio to observe. To get the bigger picture, it's really about houses 1 through 4. That's really what it's about. It's houses 1 through 4 for this person. Well, we're going to cut it off at the 4th. So it's house number 1, 2, and 3 for this person. Yeah, because that Sagittarius energy, that is also in their 3rd house up until 17 degrees. So let me do this to reemphasize the bigger picture in this person's chart. I put it on black and it turned to pink. Like, what? Really? So this is the story. When we look at the stellium, the real The bigger picture to this story is about self, is about understanding self, because it's house 1, 2, and 3. House number 1 is my physical body and my appearance. House number 2 is my values. What is mine? It's my self-love. What do I love? Who do I love? Values. My desires. Scorpio energy has to learn how to manage their desires for sure. It's fixed energy. And then we have house number 3, how I think, how I talk, how I communicate. So that's coworkers, siblings, schoolmates. Grade school is the 3rd house. When we're in grade school, that's your 3rd house. This is like someone who, holy crap, yeah, this would be a person who's probably had a few fights. Scorpio. I'd be shocked if they didn't. And then even their Sagittarius energy, right? All that stuff with Sag too is there in all of this. And it's so it really tells a big story, a greater repeating theme for this person. They seem to me, a chart like this person would definitely always be on this quest to know thyself. 1st house, the 2nd house, the 3rd house. And all that has lots of signs. It's Virgo, it's Libra, it's Scorpio, and it's Sagittarius. I only named 3 houses technically, right? But they've got 4 signs crammed into those 3 houses. So it makes it really like, what the hell is this really about here? Right? But the bigger picture is the theme, the repeating theme that you see, and understanding that you will always see the repetition in these themes because your natal chart's never going to change. All these natal planets are always going to stay here. They're never going to change. I'm trying to grab that arrow. All this is going to be the same. So every time the planets up in the sky move, they're going to aspect each one of these things in a different way. Sometimes it'll be a trine and it'll make it easy. Sometimes it'll be like, oh my God, what is this about exactly? You're right. Things beginning, things ending, new communications and learning. 3rd house, all about learning, never ending learning, right? So there's just a whole lot of stuff here. And it's not even because there's so much in Scorpio. I think it would be simpler to just look at the houses 1, 2, and 3 and to be like, okay, I'm literally living this right now. Like, this is what I'm doing. And learning how to manage each sign and each planet with each experience as it comes along. Just think about your first responder, how you first arrive on the scene and respond to an event. Because eventually you will be given one of the tests, and that's Saturn. And I'm obviously speaking just about the Scorpio stellium because it's so massive here. It's so massive and it's a real thing. So I hope that explains a lot. I hope it gives some clarity on stelliums and why the planets do matter. You know, when they all get together like that, it can be like, holy crap, it's a cluster F, right? You know what I'm talking about. So back up a little bit and look at the big story. What are the reoccurring themes? And likely the goal is, if you're learning, if you're aware, you're changing those reoccurring themes. Otherwise, the conclusions will always be the same. So if you don't like the story or the movie, it's your movie, it's your story. The way that you respond when you first get there will have everything to do with the way that that movie ends, the conclusion. I hope this helped. I think it did. And the cool thing about this is I learned something with this video. So viewer, thank you for the suggestion. And I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great night. And yeah, Taffy says bye.